will do for YouTube. It's great when you click the button and it just kind of works, right?
That is nice.
I am loving the 300 megabit up. Welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 360, your once weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm Rett.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us, especially Rett, now that he has power this week.
Can I say, Jeff pressed that go button, he just shuts down the whole grid.
That's right. Taking so much power to move this show along.
It's alive! Oh, crap. No, it's not.
If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek. All super chats are read on the air so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat and the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server, where you can chat with myself, John, Rett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I mean, last week, Rett, your hair was down to like here.
Can I say, power outage will change a man.
That's right. Yeah, you were drinking whiskey. You had a completely different background. It was weird. Thank you again to Mr. Tom Lawrence for stepping in on late notice last week. Literally like 30 seconds notice. Literally, hey, we're doing a show right now.
From the moment the power went out to the moment that I logged back in, which wasn't very long, like a couple minutes, I got on my phone and I was like, well, my phone works.
Yeah.
That's how long it took Tom to answer the call to action.
Yeah. So thank you again, Tom. Hopefully Rhett's power issues are all restored, and that is not the first time we've lost power simultaneously while trying to go live. In fact, Rett and I, a couple of months ago, both simultaneously lost internet. Separate issues, separate providers. Both of us went down within about 30 seconds of me hitting go live.
So bizarre. Yeah, there's no winning, it feels like. You've got a weekly live show and the universe is going to conspire against you, so...
Yeah.
They don't want the truth out there, Jeff. They don't want the truth out there, man.
That's right.
They can't stop the signal, man.
Well...
They did a couple times.
Right, yeah. They totally can stop the signal, right? Especially now that Starlink is my backup.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good show. We've got a great docket. Google is going to give laptops another go around, this time with Android. Let's see. Cable companies agree with the new FCC or incoming FCC Chair that data caps are good for you because it makes us compete with each other. And our headline story, which we are definitely risking demonetization by even talking about or posting links to, inside the booming AI pimping industry, or as I tried to title it in the actual title card, and then thought better of it and renamed it. AI influencers are coming for adult influencer jobs. I figured we'd probably drop the double entendre. Anyway, welcome to the show, everyone.
Pretty good one.
We got Vince from Circuit Rewind in the chat. How's it going, Vince? We got Jason. Evening, all on this wet evening. Yeah. So if people from outside the area are watching, we are definitely on the West Coast. We had that cyclone bomb drop on us last night. Luckily, we didn't get hit too hard here. Mostly just rainfall around here. It's been a weird week for weather already, though. I don't know if you saw any pictures I posted on Monday evening. My family and I went up to Portland for Zoo Lights. And it was sunny driving up there. And we started climbing the hill going into the Portland Zoo there. And just a little bit of misty rainfall. But then I saw like a couple like very large drops. And I went, is it snowing? My wife goes, Maybe. I don't know. And we get to our parking spot, and it sleets for 20 minutes straight.
Oh, yeah.
Like an inch of ice on the ground.
Monday was a bad. See, and that was the evening. You're lower in elevation, but I had to go over the mountain pass on Monday in the afternoon, and I got freaking hit with a snowstorm on the way up. And of course, like my dumbass, I didn't trip check on my way up, or maybe I did, and it was like, oh, that's not that much snow. So I get up there, and they're like, they got signs everywhere like chains required. So I had to like pull over, buy chains at the freaking convenience store there. No. Which they didn't have any chains. They had the damn sock, which I don't know, maybe somebody in the chat can tell me whether or not that's as good as chains, but
they do qualify as a traction device, and they're better than nothing.
Yeah. I definitely noticed a difference because I'm glad I put them on the way up. Number one, I had to. There was a state trooper stopping everybody and making them put on chains. So,
right.
I'm glad I put them on the way up because that was nasty. And it was like a full-on blizzard at the top of the pass. Like, I was up there like, what is my dumbass doing driving over this mountain pass today? I should have stayed home.
Yeah.
And then on the way back, there's literally no cars. And well, there was a couple cars, but like nobody had pulled over to put on chains. And I was thinking like, do I need them? Is everything okay? I trip checked it, and it was like, there was no signs. So I risked not doing any chains. And like, I've got 4-wheel drive and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I should have put on my sock coming down, because that was almost like worse coming downhill. But even though there was no storm this time, it was just freaking packed snow or whatever, 6 inches, 5 inches of packed snow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I guess the coastal range in some areas got 20 something inches of snow overnight on Tuesday night. Cascades didn't get hit quite as bad, but they still got 12, 14, 16 inches in some places.
Yeah, it was nasty.
Yeah, it's an early snow for us. Usually we don't get snow even on the mountaintops until like mid-December. And so here on November 20th is today. It's a very early snow for us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think. And yeah, I don't know. It was a mess. I did go over to the coast today. Roads were clear today, but the surf was wild. I was telling Jeff, there's this really popular spot in Oregon where you can park your car, and they've got like some type of, I don't know if you'd call it a levee or a wall or whatever, but it's like a big stone wall, and you can park your car at the top and you can go down. And it's right in the middle of one of our main tourist cities there, and it's a fun place to anyway, I pulled in there just to see, because the surf was crazy, and it was like from the highway. I was like, have I ever seen waves that big? And of course, I think we got like the king tide going right now, plus with the bomb cyclone passing through. It's like all of this number of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I pull in there, and the water is battering against this wall, which I had never seen. I've been telling people about it, and everyone's like, well, I've seen that a couple times, and it's not good.
Yeah.
It's like, well, for me, that's the first time, and I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
Because it's usually you go down there and you play in the sand there. You gotta go like 200 yards.
Yeah, there's 200 to 300 yards of beach at this particular location, and it was crashing up against the surf wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite the thing. I've seen that before. Although I used to have family in that town, and so we'd spend numerous summers and winters over there, and I've seen some gnarly storms, but.
Oh, yeah, it was messy.
Yeah.
Cosworth here sends over $2. He says, did I mention ridgelines are great in the snow?
I will say that the nice thing about the Ridgeline is it is all-wheel drive instead of four-wheel drive. You can do highway speeds in the Ridgeline, and it's just all-wheel drive. So, yeah, great advantage, although so's the Honda Pilot. And so's my CX-9.
Did you ever hear about the strange smell that they were having in the Portland area and
no
all along there? Well, apparently it comes from the town where Cosworth is from.
Uh,
Paper mill there had vented a bunch of chemicals and made the area smell like shit for days. And like the National Geologic Survey had to like go out and be like, "No, it's not Mount St. Helens ready to blow, guys."
yeah. Yeah. Veronica's in chat. How's it going, Veronica? Actually, I'm wearing one of your shirts tonight. Hey, look at that. As much as I am very, very proud of my merch game, Veronica probably has the best tech shirts in town. If you're not familiar, vkc.sh, go check out Veronica's merch store. They're all bangers. They're all fantastic. I don't see very many like tech YouTuber shirts in the wild. Like you'll see some LTT shirts out and about, but you know it's weird to see a level 1 Tex or you know, Hardware Unbox or anything like that. I see Veronica's shirts constantly at LAN events and things like that. So
nice.
Go check out her merch. Starting a little easy for the night. I've got an Athletic Brewing.
Smart.
0 ABV. Golden Dawn, or Upside Dawn Golden Ale. For those not familiar with Athletic, they are 100% alcohol-free brewers. They make craft beer, but it just happens to be alcohol-free, and it's all pretty darn delicious.
I already poured my first beer while we were chatting. I was doing the Widmer Brothers Deadlift Imperial IPA.
That's a good one. That's a really
It
good
is
one.
pretty good. I got it a little bit above fridge temperature, so it's a little bit on the warmer side. But it's good. It really kind of opens up. And it'll be my only beer for the evening, and so I figured I may as well go big. And for me, this is pretty big lately. It's 8.6%. I don't usually go that big these days.
Yep. Well, I've got a 9.9 in front of me next, so. So yeah, that's why I'm starting with 0. Also, I realized about 5:10, so about 50 minutes to go towards the show, I should probably put something in my stomach today other than beer. Because I shot a video this morning at like 10:30 this morning, and so I cracked a beer open at 10:30, as one does, right? But then I had a beer in me, so I wasn't really hungry for lunch, so I didn't eat lunch. And then 5 o'clock rolls around, and it's like, oh, I've got a show. Oh, I'm probably going to open 2 beers. I should probably put some food in my stomach.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart.
So
I think opening up with an NA will help. So
yeah. Well, I did eat something, but normally on Wednesdays I eat after the show. I'll make myself some food and then join the after party on the Discord server, which you can get access to by joining the Patreon. But yeah, so I ate some food first. Tara Pup sends over $5. Thank you very much. I'm traveling this week. Tomorrow in Pittsburgh, might get snow. Kind of wish I was back in Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta doesn't get much snow, I would venture a guess.
Just gigantic chemical plant explosions and hurricanes.
Right. Codsworth sends over $2.
They had a big one a couple months ago, like before. They had a big chemical plant explosion like 30 minutes outside of Atlanta. So
yeah.
I don't know what it was or what it's for, but anyway.
Codsworth sends over another $2. Thank you again, good sir. Can confirm Longview smells bad. Who needs the APA? Well, the new administration, we may not have one anyway.
Allison says right above that, it's not Mount St. Helens. It's the Rainier I had earlier. That's a good one.
Good one.
I like that.
Yeah. As someone who grew up next to a paper mill, I grew up just a couple of miles from an old Weyerhaeuser paper mill in Springfield, Oregon. And in fact, I think they may still be running. They're one of the only ones that does. But that was bad.
I think all the paper mills in Oregon have closed.
Have they?
And now it's just like
I couldn't remember if that one was still open
have...
or not, but I knew it was still running not that long ago. I think maybe 2018 it was still running.
Ooh, okay. Because I was going to say in 2013 I was working at a paper mill in Newburgh, and I thought the big selling point with them was that it was the last paper mill in Oregon, but maybe it was just that it was the biggest paper mill outside of like on the West Coast or whatever. And they tore that thing down brick by brick. You drive right by there anymore? It's not even there,
Oh, wow.
which is amazing.
Never mind. Apparently the Springfield one's been closed since 2006.
Oh, so maybe the one I was working in Newburgh, because I remember them billing it as like one of the only paper mills left in Oregon.
Yeah.
If not the only one. Because they had one in Salem that had closed a long time ago too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked at that paper mill, and like one night a guy got his arm chopped off by a paper machine, and like because of the manager's weird insistence that they don't lock out and the machine, and
How'd
and
that go
so this
for
guy
him?
the guy got his arm chopped off.
Right.
And my favorite thing about this was they're coming out and they're like waiting for the ambulance, whatever, and I mean nothing funny about this. Guy lost his arm, but he was just like he was in shock, so he was just like so bizarrely calm about the whole thing, like literally chopped off at the elbow.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, man, we're going to take you to the, the Blue Cross or whatever hospital was there in Newburgh. And he's like, nah, just let me bleed out here if you're going to take me there. They're like, what? No, man, you don't have a choice. Get in my car. And he's like, you can call 911 and you can get a life flight over here to take me to somewhere that's going to save my life. Or I'll just stay here and I'll bleed out. It's okay.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to that hospital. I don't know. It probably wasn't a Blue Cross. Now we're going to get sued by Blue Cross.
Probably.
Whatever hospital is in Newburgh.
Yeah. I will say some of the backwater hospitals around here, not the Newburgh's backwater. Again, please don't sue us. I always go Christopher Titus, like medical center BS. It was a doctor, a weed whacker, and an effing rake in the corner. So I empathize. We had a similar one in a town that I lived in for almost 20 years. So yes, it's like, nah, man.
Yeah, I'm spoiled.
Take me to Portland.
My small town hospital has always been like pretty legit, up until it was bought by like one of the big healthcare conglomerations, whatever. And it's still not bad, but it's just not the same as it was. But it's like weirdly efficient and good for a small town hospital.
Yep. A couple of my kids were born at that hospital, and I wish the third was as well.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that one.
Yeah.
That's because Salem is Salem's a mess, man.
Yeah.
I've never heard a single birthing story going well at Salem.
God, that was awful. That was,
yeah.
Yeah. That's a story for another day, though. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool.
And if Salem wants to sue us for that one, we'll go to the mattresses.
Yeah. I've got things to say about Salem. Anyway, Codsworth says, Kraft, I drove myself to the hospital while having a heart attack to avoid the hospital in my area. Yeah.
It's a really good healthcare system we have. And, speaking of, who needs the EPA? I mean, who needs the healthcare system? So.
We'll get into politics later. There's one that...
Jeff.
So, yeah. It's tech related, and so we have to cover it.
Yeah. We're going back to the beginning of the show almost with that one. I mean...
we're going to...
fun.
Yeah. Back to zombie comments and everything else. So, yeah, here we go. Buckle up. Let's get the show, or the news segment of the show started. Google is apparently rebooting their Pixel laptop series. This was kind of a short-lived thing, maybe 2014, I want to say. It's been a while since the Pixel laptops have been a thing. No, it was even before that, because it was Ivy Bridge. So it would have been 2012, 2013.
Yeah, they say here in the article they released a second Chromebook Pixel in 2015. So,
okay. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that they're meaning like a second generation or whatever. So
yeah. Anyway,
otherwise, no other dates.
The Pixel laptop was an interesting beast. It was premium hardware. The things were absolutely gorgeous. I mean, akin to competing with Apple in 2012 and 13 with the unibody aluminum MacBook Pros that had just hit the market in 2011. And this thing held its weight. It went toe to toe. These were gorgeous machines with fantastic hardware inside of them by all rights. Except for one big thing. There was almost no local storage. They came with 64 gigabytes of local storage to boot the OS, and then everything was cloud-based in 2012 or 2013 or whenever these happened to come out. My mind's a little fuzzy, but I do remember these vividly. I don't know how good your internet connection is these days, where you can tether every phone and everything else. The wireless landscape and mobile internet landscape was vastly different a decade and a half ago. And, oh God, has it really been that long? Yes, it has.
Ouch. The psychic damage.
Oh. Jeff heard itself in confusion. Yes, 2012 was 12 years ago. Yeah, the internet mobile landscape was vastly different and vastly more controlled and even more, tight-lipped and difficult to access. The idea of an online-only laptop, especially one that cost $2,200 at launch, just didn't do all that well, despite how crazy good the hardware may have been inside.
It's like they spent their budget creating this beautiful, awesome machine and then ran out of money and were like, well, let's just do what the Chromebook does.
Well, no, they were trying to compete with Apple, but without the software ecosystem. Love them or hate them, Apple software is ubiquitous across all their devices. Everything just kind of works. Even back in 2012, you had Cloud Sync for between your laptop and your desktop through iCloud. And so if you had multiple devices, it just kind of worked. And, Google using Chrome OS was trying to jump onto that same kind of thing. The problem is with Chrome OS, you don't have professional applications. You don't have really any usable Office applications outside of the time Google Drive. Office 365 wasn't a thing. Microsoft Teams wasn't a thing, so your more professional based apps just weren't there yet. It just kind of sputtered. It never took off because who was going to spend that much money on a thing that felt limited? But now it appears that Google is trying to try again. They are rebooting the Pixel laptop, but with a caveat. This time it's going to come with Android. And I don't know that I love or hate this idea. My first inclination is, ew. But hear me out. The iPad and iPad Pro specifically do very well with mobile-focused OSs, with mobile-focused hardware, with cloud-connected, applications. The environment may exist these days for an Android-based laptop to do quite well. Now, obviously, a lot of this is going to have to come from software buy-in. You have to have companies that are willing to make software to run on these devices. Android and iOS have been feature parity for so long. It's hard to argue that Android doesn't have that ecosystem in place right now. Now, whether or not the big name applications are going to come and have the same feature set, like, Adobe Photoshop on the iPad is a pretty killer application. There's a whole bunch of graphic tablet and drawing artists and whatnot. They're not buying graphics tablets anymore. They're buying iPad Pros and they're doing everything on that with an Apple Pencil. So companies are willing to develop for mobile platforms as long as the hardware is there. If Google comes out with a killer feature set and fantastic hardware, I think the market may actually be there, despite my initial reaction.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. At the very least, I mean, they see something that we don't. But then again, Google is kind of the king of dumping a bunch of time and energy and resources into a given product and then absolutely just abandoning it in a year or two when it doesn't work out the way that they thought it would. I mean,
Yeah. Veronica says, could work. I'd be curious to see how easily it could be flashed with something I like more than Android. And my initial thought is, I bet these are going to be Snapdragon powered. I doubt Google's going to go back to x86, a la Chrome OS or even Android on x86. I bet this will be ARM powered. Because that makes a lot of sense for a number of different reasons. Better standby, better battery life, higher efficiency. Not necessarily the, balls to the wall performance that you get out of an iPad or out of an x86. But good enough to do basically everything. And, the Snapdragon new Gen 3s are pretty darn killer. So I'd imagine that's what's going to be coming to it. Although, who knows? Maybe since we now have a universal ISO for the ARM version of Windows, you could have some bastardized Windows 11 ARM device. Or Veronica says Graphene OS. I didn't think of Graphene OS. Yeah. Totally right.
Whoa. Paul Spinell up here. Paul Spinelli says, I use Google Workspace, and it is so bad. Office 365 is so much better, especially with Excel versus Sheets. Sheets is trash.
There are things that Excel 365 still cannot do that requires the desktop version. And I would argue that Sheets is just as competent as Excel 365.
So I'll say right off the top that I'm not as proficient of an Excel user as some people, but I've gotten pretty handy over the years. And there has been nothing that I could do in Excel that I can't do in Sheets. Here's the thing, like Google Workspace might suck or whatever, and I guess that's kind of fine. I live on the Google Workspace just because, I'm broke and it seems affordable.
Yeah. Kind of hard to argue with $10 for literally unlimited access to everything.
And also, like, I'm not a big fan of anything else on the Office 365. That whole ecosystem. I mean, like, I'm not one of these people that's like Word is ubiquitous. Like, I'm not one of these. Like, Excel is like the only thing that I would argue is like. But again, there's nothing that I've ever needed Excel for that I can't do on Google Sheets now, and Google Sheets only continues to get a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm not as good with Excel as I think I am.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think there's, I'm definitely not the most proficient when it comes to Excel. But I do use, multi-sheet worksheets and, link between files and, have calculations that are entered on, not terribly complex things. As Allison says, Excel, the spreadsheet that people think is a database.
Yeah. And I was going to say that about Excel is like, I guess what I would prefer to use Excel with is like, massive data sets, right? Like if I have a ton of data, I'd rather it be on Excel than on Sheets. But, then again, even Paul is specifying that he's using the desktop version of 365, which is going to be better than the web version.
Yeah. Yeah, and the web app is definitely very limited compared to the desktop. Yeah, the desktop app is basically just desktop Excel, although there are still some differences. But at the end of the day, whatever works for you. If Sheets doesn't have a feature that you definitely need in Excel, it's great that we have those choices.
Oh no, David says, what's the best spreadsheet program? Whichever LLM spits out a competent formula for me. Oh, God.
Oh. Right? I mean...
I didn't think people would use LLMs for this, but here we are.
I mean, what else is it good for?
Oh, my God.
And I didn't put this in the show notes, but Alicat over on the Discord reminded me that Microsoft is also putting out a cloud-only desktop They introduced it this week. Windows 365 Link. It's a little Nook-sized box. It supports dual 4K monitors. It's got 4 USB ports, Ethernet, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.3. However, much like Chrome OS, it offers basically no onboard storage and connects you to basically an online instance of Windows. And it costs $30-something per month? What was the... Yeah, $349 in April. So yeah, these are going to be available for $349, but there's a subscription service to make it actually work. So basically you're connecting to a virtualized instance, but with local rendering. It's kind of weird. The funny thing about this particular device is it's $349 for something that's a quarter as powerful as the $599 Mac Mini M4 that just launched, which you can actually get for $499 if you have a student in your life, because Apple still offers $100 student discounts on all Mac desktops, including the Mac Mini M4. So you can pick one up for $500. Yeah. While I think the Android Pixel laptop has a shot at succeeding, this has no shot in hell.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe it's just me too, but like recent developments in the world have me thinking about how to bring as much of my computing in-house as possible. How do I escape these big umbrellas? How do I get out from these major corporations controlling my data and knowing what I'm doing and working on?
Mm-hmm.
And having a cloud-based desktop, I mean, that just goes against the whole idea of a desktop to me.
Right.
The reason we have a desktop is for what? So it's on our desktop, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's in the name.
It's so I don't have to go to the library and watch porn.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know. It's just like... But, I mean, big corporation's going to do what big corporation's going to do, I mean, they see the future is...
Veronica says, I can't wait to buy one of those from an e-waste shop and hack it to install Linux Mint.
Yeah.
That's going to happen a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the fun thing, I guess, is if I pump the hate brakes for just a minute here, that's the fun thing about anything that these companies are going to put out, is that eventually it'll hit the e-waste, or it'll hit the secondhand market or whatever. Other people can get their hands on it, and then you have something fun to mess around with.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is craft computing for? I mean, I know where I am. What if I'm over here hating on Microsoft so hard, and I'm like, they're just contributing to future craft computing videos. So
basically, yes, the more companies put out like distributed, centralized, but not personal computers, the better I'll do. So I'm okay with it.
I mean, and then I get to come on the show and talk shit about it when they announce them. So it's like, you know what? Keep it coming, Microsoft. Who cares?
I'm fine with this.
I forget what I'm doing. I forgot where I am. Oh, Christ.
Yep. Anyway, I've done switching gears now. I've done some reviews on a couple eGPUs now, and my criticism of them has always been the same. It's decent hardware, but way too freaking expensive. The common eGPU that's on the market right now is the Radeon RX 7600M. It is the mobile variant of AMD's RDNA 3 powered Navi 33 graphics card. And it's just not... While it's fine for 1080p, and it's definitely a nice boost if you have like a gaming handheld that's running, a 7840U, for example, or even a Steam Deck or something like that. It's definitely a nice graphical boost, but it's not life-changing. It's not going to, all of a sudden you're gaming at 4K or something like that. It's a $300 graphics card. If that. It's probably closer to $249 if you're talking the desktop space. The problem is, all of these eGPUs are coming in docking stations that are like $600 to $800. And I don't know about you, but the economics just don't add up for me. When it comes to $250 worth of power in a graphics card, yeah, sure, fine. Add another $100 on there. Give me a Thunderbolt dock. Give me an SD card reader and an NVMe slot and a couple extra USB ports. I'm good, right? $800? Really?
Yeah.
It's just not worth it. And while I agree with everyone that the technology is cool, it is amazing to me how often I get people defending that price tag. Well, this is the way of the future and modular computing and everything else. Like, bro, they're straight up robbing you in the street.
But Jeff, you're not even thinking about it from the shareholder's perspective. Like, I thought we came to crafting computing to get the balance.
That is the new normal, isn't it?
It's just been the way it all goes. I mean, you see an absurd price tag and you go, I've been saying it literally since the first time I've ever been on the show. It's like, this is what happens when you let bean counters make the decisions. When the accountants are in charge.
Yep.
They go, well, okay, this is a $200 idea, but we better times that by 4 so we get our cut too.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I mean,
that all said, yeah, won't someone please think of the shareholders? With that all said, a company that I've reviewed a couple products for now, AOOSTAR. They did the little odd-shaped, like, pyramid desktop 2-bay NAS device. And they've done a couple others that I've taken a look at before. They are launching an OCuLink and USB4 compatible eGPU powered by the Radeon 7600M, $399. I don't normally talk about, like, outcoming products on Talking Heads unless it's like, a CPU launch or GPU launch or something like that. We don't typically cover like one-off things, but finally someone gets it. Finally someone understands that a $250 graphics card should not be $800. And is delivering basically all the features that you would want to see. They've got dual display ports. They've got HDMI, USB-C, OCuLink, another USB-C. It is powered by a external power brick. So it's got all the ports. I don't know if it has Ethernet. I don't think it does. But fairly small little compact package. $400. This is what these should be. Yeah, 400 USD. So versus, like, here's the existing lineup. Minis Forum is $559, and those are one of the least expensive ones. The 1X GPU 2 with the 7800M, which is the better graphics card, is $899. The 1X GPU is $700. That's one that I've taken a look at before. GPD even, which usually has, decently priced devices, $670. It's all the same hardware, except for the 7800M, but the 7600M, it's all the same in every single one of these GPU docks. AOOSTAR finally gets it.
Nice. Skull says somebody should bring one to PDX Land next year.
Yeah, someone should. Are you talking about me? Maybe I will. Maybe I will. I'm always...
I don't know. Somebody who gets paid to deal with this shit.
Yeah. I'm always up for traveling as light as possible. Have I taken a full tower to PDX Land? I've taken...
Yeah.
Did I take a full tower? I'm trying to remember.
What did you take the year that I brought the system that was originally going to have the Intel Arc in it? We took the Arc out, but
That was Heavy Metal.
oh, Heavy Metal. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay.
gamed on Heavy Metal twice, one of which was running Linux, which was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was cool.
I showed up to PDX LAN running Pop OS and gamed the whole weekend. Multiplayer with everyone, with every
No
game we wanted to
problem.
play.
Yeah.
No problems at all. It was incredible.
You, then I don't think you have taken a full tower unless you took one this last couple weeks when I was
No,
there.
because I've taken the Terra twice. I've taken Heavy Metal twice.
Yeah, the Terra is what you had when I was there in the spring, right? That was the small.
Yeah, that was the tiny little guy.
The small fractal case, right?
Yeah. I was going
Heavy
to
Metal
take,
twice.
I was going to take a full tower until it exploded the morning of. Literally exploded with
I remember
fire
that one too.
and pops and bangs. That was excellent.
We breathed deep of the magic smoke that morning.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Luckily that processor survived. That was the EPIC 7742 64 core. It's one of the only things that survived that fiasco. Apparently when you send 12 volts down the 5 volt rail of a bunch of RGBs that also backfeed into your motherboard, it doesn't like it. I blew up a Raspberry Pi 4. I blew up an LCD because this had a Pi 4 powering an LCD, powering a system monitor thing for the readout. Blew up a bunch of RGB strips, including 8 of them that were RAM module add-ons. So I had ECC memory, but I had put RGB heat sinks on them. And those all popped and blew. Yeah, it was quite the show. And one of those times that it's like, it's 4 a.m. I just need to get this done. I'm not going to bother filming. I'll just shoot the B-roll after. Should have turned on the camera. That's 2 million views that never happened. Because the other one was my GTX 1080, my EVGA SC2, caught fire on me. And this was in the early days of the channel. This is like 4 months into the channel. This is when I was still downstairs in the old house. I've told this story before, but yeah, it was a full water-cooled system. It was my Threadripper 1900X, and it had a GTX 1080 with a full cover water block on it. And I went to bed one night and came down the next morning, and the system was off. And I went, oh, that's weird. And I hit the power button, and nothing happened. And I went, okay, that sucks. Probably a power supply. So I unplugged the power supply, and I plugged it back in, and I hit the power button, and a relay fired, but then nothing happened. So you heard the click, and like the fans did like half a rotation. And it's like, okay, so it's trying to power up, but something's stopping it. So let's eliminate variables in a water-cooled rig. So you drain the water-cooled rig, you figure everything out. Long story short, I had eliminated like every single variable. I had unplugged the power leads from the graphics card, but I had left the graphics card plugged in because the system would boot when the graphics card was taken out. So I'd kind of figured out it was the graphics card. So I had the card plugged into the PCIe, but I didn't have the power leads plugged in. And when I turned it on, apparently the power leads were what was triggering the power safeguard on the power supply, because it sent 75 volts through the PCI bus into the graphics card, which immediately shot like this much flame out the back. It blew the VRMs apart. So that was fun.
Classic.
Veronica, we have got to get you out for PDX LAN. I say we need to make that happen. Yeah, you would enjoy the absolute crap out of it. It's 4 days. It's Thursday through Sunday. The next one is April 10th through 13th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. And we need to get you out because that would be a heck of a lot of fun. And then Zach wants to know if you're going, Rhett, in spring.
Oh yeah, I was like typing to him. I could have said it to the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zach, you know this already. My deep regrets about missing the fall. So yes. I'm going in the spring. And
excellent.
I want it to be one of these where I also maybe don't miss Thursday. So we'll see. Yeah, I didn't realize how much I have really come to appreciate, like, PDX land until I, had to miss it.
Until you missed one.
I had a great time with my family and everything. I had other stuff going on, and then I missed one, and I see everybody having a great time, and I'm like, oh, that hurts a little bit,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think next time I'm gonna go with I'm gonna try to slim down my luggage and game on my Steam Deck or something like that. Just go nice and easy.
Oh, well, we'll get you a nice little portable rig or something. So
now we're talking.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah. I know a guy might have some extra ITX cases and motherboards laying around. Like we could make something happen.
Well, he sounds like a gentleman and a scholar, as well as handsome as all hell.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? Anyway, we have another story to get to, and it's our headline story. But first, I am all out of my first brew, so I'm going to go ahead and open the second one so I don't have to interrupt this very interesting topic that we're going to tackle here and try to do so without getting demonetized. I saw this. Sorry. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting journey. It's going to be an interesting journey. Yeah. Yeah, Rhett, you want to just sign off for this one?
In the interest of Jeff's monetization, I bid you all adieu.
So from Goose Island, not a Bourbon County Stout, and not a Goose Island IPA. This one is the Tropical Beer Hug. I hadn't seen this, and I've never seen this can before, but it showed up in my local beer shop, and I went, I know Goose Island. I've not had a tropical IPA from them. And it's
Doesn't
imperial.
Sound like something they would typically make.
Oh, Goose Island makes IPAs all the time, but
like a tropical, you know what I mean? It's like IPA, sure, but like something like this, it sounds a little bit like unique, at least for Goose Island. I don't know. Maybe I'm mischaracterizing that.
Yeah. Well, obviously that we know them mainly for the Bourbon County Stout, but they do a lot of other things too. Yeah. References kind of reminded me of Juice Force, which is the Voodoo Ranger Juice Force, which is fantastic. But yeah, 9.9% Tropical Beer Hug.
Love the can.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. For one, I'm switching to Signature Select Seltzer Water.
Oh, there you go.
That's caffeine-free, calorie-free, sodium-free, sweetener-free, 0 calories.
That is the magnum of beer cans. Yeah, it's a 19.3 ounce beer can. Yeah, it's a big old can compared to a 12 ouncer. So
for my can, if I close my eyes, it almost feels like a Rainier can.
And boy, is that ever clear.
That looks delicious.
Like crystal clear. I like that. Skull says, Beer Hug is a pretty common series here in the Midwest. I'm guessing they're just expanding distribution outwards. Yeah. Like we get a lot of off-the-wall things from Rogue that I know don't get national distribution, whereas Dead Guy definitely does. And I feel this is the same thing in reverse for us.
Yeah, I guess that's true, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you go into your favorite brewery here in Oregon, you're going to be drinking things that aren't on the shelves at the grocery store even too. So,
right.
I mean,
that's way drier than I was expecting. I was expecting something a little more heavier body, not necessarily dry. Interesting. I'm going to have to give that a second taste because that caught me off guard a little bit. Because Rev goes, it reminded me of Juice Force, and I went, oh, sweet, like orange juice and pulpy and hazy, and no, not that. So we'll give that another go here in a second. Anyway, our title story comes from 404 Media, and I guess they worked with Wired on this story. And I've been seeing this a lot. I'm not on Instagram, but on Twitter. And I don't think they dug much into Twitter when it comes to this, but they're calling it the booming industry of AI pimping, which sounds weird. What is that? Well, AI generated influencers. Think of image generation AI. I've done a couple videos on it. You can have it generate anything you want, right? Well, you could also have AI refine or change aspects of an image very subtly. You can swap a face. You can swap a background. You can, train on a specific face and then simply give, 50 different bodies that you've captured from the internet, and then put that head on it or different body features and place them algorithmically. And suddenly a legitimate content creator has your face and you're just reposting their content and reaping all the benefits, right? This has been mostly targeting adult content. So think your OnlyFans and things like that. And I noticed this a lot on Twitter because I haven't really been on Twitter for quite a long time. A couple of months ago, I started making sure, check my DMs, once a week or something like that. And I'd browse for a couple of minutes and then quickly be reminded of why I left that place, because it seemed like about 1 in 4 on bad days and 1 in 10 on good days, new followers that I got was an AI generated porn bot using... I
can't believe it's that low of a ratio for you. For me, it was 100% of every new follower for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
Granted, I haven't been posting there for well over that amount of time. Since I stopped posting, every single new follower is an AI porn bot.
Yeah.
And there's one a day at least.
I stopped posting on Twitter, I think, like a week after Elon bought it. And I think I've made maybe 10 Twitter posts all year. And they were for big things like, hey, I'm releasing Axe Effect. Like, here's something I need you to know about. Right. I don't want to be on the platform, but to my 10,000 followers over there, here's something that your eyeballs should be on.
And I think anybody that's ever used Twitter and has been on Twitter in any real capacity, they do not need the conditional. Like, they understand why you need to go and post that. Like, it is a hard platform to give up.
Yeah.
Like, I just deleted mine finally. It's gone.
Oh no, mine's been off my phone since almost a year ago.
Yeah, same. But I went and deleted my account. My account is absolutely gone. If somebody wants to go and take my old
because
well, you got a thing with your name. You don't want to give up your handle.
Correct.
I don't think would be useful.
So
I didn't either, but then I was like, you know what?
I don't post on Facebook either, but I still have the Craft Computing handle over on Facebook. And I've got it quite a few. In fact, I think I have the Craft Computing Instagram as well. I've got the handle a number of different places that I would want that handle to be.
And you have to,
right? Because
somebody could come and take it and pretend to be you and be a douche.
Exactly. But haven't been posting on X, and this is probably the only reason that I didn't have 100% new followers being just AI generated porn bots was I do have a following over there. 10,000's not pennies. It's not a lot, but it's decent amount of people are interested in who I am and what I do, and so I would I still get like a dozen new followers a day, but 3 of those will be porn bots.
Yeah. I mean, and you're going to have a back catalog of videos for all time that say, go find me over on Twitter at Craft Computing. You know, that's been a key part of your pitch for years.
It was. Yeah.
So,
but I started noticing some patterns on these new Twitter followers. I would get a random like from a tweet that's 2 years old. And the reason I know that is because in your notifications, if you click notifications, it'll say 38 people liked this tweet. But then it'll also say, you know, such and such, like your 6 followers who liked your tweet also liked this tweet. And that'll show up as a separate notification. If there's one person that likes a separate tweet that no one else liked that day, they will get their own notification badge. And so and it wasn't like a ton of tweets that were getting likes. It was like 5 specific tweets would be necroed 2 years later, and I'd get a random like on one. And the profile picture was always fairly unassuming, but it also say this person also now followed you, and they'd show up in my new followers list. And I'm like, well, I've seen your name twice now. Let me click on your profile, and you're a bot. And it was always like the same 10 to 20 what looked like, you know, OnlyFans bait, you know, come see me in my bio for more kind of thing, and, you know, attractive woman in lingerie. But it was the same. We
know what the word is before in bio. Okay, we all know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to say slide into my DMs, but now it's, you know, links in bio, right? Anyway, every single one of them used the same pictures of like 10 to 20 AI generated women. And sometimes it was like 2 or 3 different pictures, but they were always the same faces. And you know they're AI. You know these accounts are just bots. You know they're just farming. But the pictures themselves were good enough as to not be fully AI generated. Like there was no like tell that, oh, that's an AI image. But you could tell like the face is just a little bit too sharp. Like they replaced the face, which is like which is what I suspected happened. And I know there's a bunch of people picturing me now like pixel peeping these bots going, I'm gonna find the differences in these 2 photos. For the porn bots, right?
Yeah. We gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, if you weren't doing that, then you're not doing your job, Jeff.
Right. I am an investigative journalist after all. But my suspicions were dead on.
We spent $50,000 of our own money flying to these places to inspect the pixel counts on each.
We found the women behind the. Flew a drone over their house, contracted with a local drone operator.
Yeah. Could you tell who I was trying to be?
We talked to our lawyers, and they said it was probably okay that we did this.
Granted, they're from LegalZoom.com, so.
Anyway, so my suspicions turned out to be pretty much correct according to this article posted by 404, and like I said, Wired also contributed some content to this as well. That, if you couldn't tell from the thumbnail here, porn bot companies, AI pimping, are taking legitimate photos from OnlyFans and Fansly and all the different, you know, adult content, you know, buy-in sites.
Legitimate adult creators.
Right, legitimate adult creators. And they are AI enhancing them, replacing the face, but then pawning off that content as their own and getting people to sign in to, you know, for premium services to chat with these people, and all you're doing is getting on with a chat bot. You're not getting exclusive content. You're not talking with an actual person. It's all I don't want to say AI generated, but AI manipulated. And it's been a really interesting thing to read, which, by the way, hashtag not sponsored. If you're not subscribed to 404, it's pretty inexpensive. It's independent journalism, support independent journalism, and they are fantastic. But here's a safe for work example that we could probably show on here. You know, taking a runway model and changing the face and you know, changing some different contours about the body, you know, changing the skin color a little bit, making it look like a different person in a slightly different pose. And, you know, on the runway, and then you've got all these thirsty men going, oh, wow, you look beautiful, and yada, yada, yada.
What's funny is that, like, this is like Instagram reality levels of bullshit. You ever see that subreddit? Like,
totally.
It's funny. Yeah. I don't know.
The interesting thing about this is they're changing enough from the image that the body's actually been completely changed. Like, at first glance, it's like, oh yeah, they replaced the face. The hair is the same down to a certain point. You can see that there's a, but the whole body is like turned. The hand is in a different position over here. The nails are the fingers are in different positions. You know, it's similar, but the whole person has been AI enhanced. It's not the same image.
This is the same. This is like, looking at these two side by side reminds me of all the dumb bullshit you see where these assholes go on and they're like, oh, you know, I was looking at Horizon 2, and like Aloy has peach fuzz on her face, and you know what? Like, these woke game creators are getting out of control, and so they go through every game and they're like, wokeism is, let's show what real men like in women, and then they all look like the same derivative, like airbrushed Instagram reality bullshit possible.
Yeah.
And that's like, you look side by side like these two people, and it's like,
I guarantee those men were grown in a lab, because there's never way they've ever come in contact with a human woman.
No.
I'm not even giving them the grace of coming out of their mother.
Yeah.
But
which is the AI? Get out of here, Patrick Sullivan. It's obvious. Yeah, one looks like the Instagram reality fake ass airbrushed thing.
There are some tells for AI, and in fact, Corridor Crew did a fantastic breakdown of some AI tells that I didn't even realize. I wasn't picking up on. Anyway, AI is always in focus. Now, you can have out of focus elements in AI, like the background, but you cannot have a blurry AI image. It's not possible because they're not algorithmically trained to know what blurry features of a person look like. They're trained to know what in-focus details of a person look like. And so everything about this image is razor sharp from a photography standpoint. Whereas the source image, it's actually slightly out of focus. The background is in focus. The model was not. This one, the face is sharp and the background is sharp, but we have some bokeh on the lights trailing forward. It's more out of focus towards the camera on the lighting rail than it is further away. So this is not possible photographically. That's one tell. Another tell is actually contrast in the image. AI-generated imagery is highly contrasty. Usually you see it as high saturation, high amount of colors, vividly contrasting colors. But AI algorithms basically generate a heat map for where things should be. And if you're generating a person, the person should be white. Should appear on a heat map as a white image. And then the background details should appear as black images on a heat map. So you focus on the white, and then you build the image out from there. What ends up happening is you end up with very high contrast in AI imagery. And even without looking at focus or counting number of digits, you can usually tell from the high amount of saturation. So you can see this is a fairly balanced exposure, even though it is a black swimsuit. But there's even more contrast. It lightened the skin to such a point that it's like a black and white image at this point. There's saturation there, but it's highly contrasty.
Well, and like, look at the way that the hair falls over the shoulders there.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the arms are, it looks like a bad Photoshop. Like it looks
the one
like
on the left anyway
used...
already looks like a bad Photoshop. That arm has been lengthened.
Yeah, I didn't even look at that.
Yeah.
That's unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
so
arms look Photoshop
we're taking
too.
Instagram reality and then AI processing on top of it.
Which is even worse. I didn't know. Both of those arms on the left one look like, and I gave Patrick shit. I'm so sorry, Patrick. You get a genuine Rett is awesome apology. But yeah, it's just, I think it's especially stark on the one on the right because like the shadows don't even look correct on that leg coming down.
Yeah.
Up here. And like, yeah, you can see it looks like that. Well, I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, it's the arms look like they're like, let's just hide them behind the hair, have them come down. Mm-hmm. Yeah, add some shading there on the leg, you know.
But yeah, Corridor Crew does a fantastic deep dive into how to spot an AI image. And like I said, they had some things in there that I hadn't even thought of. And I've done videos on generating AI imagery and things like that. And looking back at AI images that I've generated before, they're all very contrasty. They're all overly saturated. And that was kind of interesting for them to point that out, because when you ask it to draw something, it draws a heat map based on where the subject in that thing is and where I need to focus my attention. And so it'll start drawing a person or a bench or a building or whatever else. And that's what gets all the attention. And so you can get a high amount of detail in, like, make me a futuristic car on a city street and whatnot with bustling traffic in the background. And it'll go, okay, the car is the focus. I'm going to put all my attention here. I don't care if this person has 3 arms over here, though. That's outside of my scope. And so, but it generates a heat map to figure out where it needs to focus.
Fascinating stuff.
And thus you end up with a high contrast between subject and background.
Uh-oh. Am I still here?
You're still here. Okay. Yep.
Weird. YouTube just crashed on me. Yeah, but, and then obviously there's a lot more in this article than I think like we can possibly get into, because it's a 24 pages what you sent me here.
Yeah, no, it's a long article. I read about 3/4 of it. There are some images in the article that I probably cannot show. Like the swimsuit one I could probably do. I'm not going to get into lingerie. I'm not going to get into but they go through showing some actual examples of, here's the OnlyFans account that this image was stolen from, and here's like 3 AI generated ones with different faces and different features and things like that. And the whole idea behind these is to emulate the personal connection that influencers are trying to generate on websites like OnlyFans and whatnot. Hey, come chat with me, ask me for private photos, that kind of thing. Which, nothing against this industry. If that's your jam, and if people are willing to pay for it, freaking more power to you. But AI is so good at being so genuine. I'm chatting with you and you're the only person I care about right now, because there's 80,000 of me and I can take the time to spend one-on-one with you. You can have someone generate 100 different images and, if someone requests one, get another $20 out of them and then shoot one in through chat. And like, this is not that difficult algorithmically and coding wise to do. But this article goes into, you can actually do this from apps that are on the App Store right now. And I didn't think of this, but I've done 2 tutorials now on generating AI images using your own, server-based hardware. And I've kind of given people a blueprint for how to do some stuff like this. And the things that I was doing was very innocuous.
making fun profile pics and stuff.
Right, making fun profile pics, how to train on my face and then put me into different scenarios, and I will say the only AI generated images I've ever used in thumbnails have been the thumbnails that were speaking about AI generated images. I think that's appropriate. But I taught you how to train on a face and then how to use that face to replace other faces. I taught you how to isolate sections of a real image that you've taken and manipulate it to do whatever you want. And that tool set is exactly what these bot creators are using. And the way they're doing it is they're stealing from OnlyFans content creators.
Right. And this gets to I think my biggest problem with this. And this might, maybe this is too radical, right? But part of what really bothers me about this whole thing is like, think about, you're showing people how to do this. And let's just say, for example, kind of talking in circles here because this is a big concept, and maybe I'm not the one that should be tackling this in the public square here. But let's just say, you're showing people how to do this. What is the percentage? What are the demographics of your audience? It's like mostly guys.
It's 98% male on the worst of days.
And so you already have this, which is where I was going with
and 25 to 45.
It's like mostly men. And therefore, I think maybe we can make the assumption that it's mostly men making this content. This isn't the women who are trying to profit off of the content that they're creating.
No.
Right? Like, sex work is kind of like the great equalizer in this weird, like, labor force. Great equalizer. That's a stupid way of putting this. But sex work is kind of like one of these equalizers as far as like the gender gap goes in a lot of ways, where it's like one of these things that predominantly benefits women.
Yeah.
And
they have it and we don't, and we can't even come close to competing in that market.
And now it's not like this is the women content creators who are thinking to them, well, why don't I just swap out my face and I'll make double off of this?
Mm-hmm.
No, these are guys who are taking this and making their own content, and therefore dipping in to that which should be going to the women, to the creators of this. Like, and there's the one level of it where it's just like men are legitimately stealing the actual labor of people by just swapping their faces.
We're gonna get that 76 cents one way or another.
But then there's the other side of it where it's like they are legitimately edging people out of a market that they invented.
Yes.
and not in a way that I'm just like, ooh, the free market. Like, I think that it's a bizarre thing where it's like men are the primary consumers of the sex work industry, and now they're trying to become the primary creators of it.
I mean,
like, and I'm not saying that men had nothing to do with the sex work industry as a whole, but like, it's bizarre and also kind of gross.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I don't know. There's something to unpack there.
Yeah.
That I'm not prepared. I'm not equipped or prepared or even qualified to unpack here. But I think that that's like the most insidious part of this whole thing, is that like, it feels like you have like the Andrew Tates of the world who, they, after everything is all said and done, it's like they are human trafficking. That's what Andrew Tate is doing.
Right.
And this is similar in the sense where it's like it's not their bodies on the line.
Right.
It's other people's bodies on the line. And they are going to edge those people out while capturing some of the market. It's like, it's just gross. I don't know. I wish I had more to add to that, but
there is a weird caveat to this conversation as it relates to OnlyFans creators. It is actually a pretty well-known thing within the space that who knows more about what a man wants when trying to engage in adult content? Other men. And so oftentimes, a lot of big name OnlyFans creators, when they say, come have a private chat with me, they hire men to private chat with paying customers.
Right. Yeah. Of course
That's
they do.
definitely a thing.
Of course they do.
Right. I don't know how that relates to this conversation, but...
Why would they hire women to do it? Why would the women do it themselves?
Why would the women do it themselves? Like, exactly.
Like, I understand, like, close that feedback loop off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't let that disease escape. Like, let's let that feed into itself. I don't know. I get kind of what you're saying. But yeah, this feels even weirder than that. Like that feels normal. That's an extension. And like ultimately, like there might be like, unless this female creator has like some production company behind them or whatever, like they are likely the ones that are like profiting off of that.
Yeah.
But
no, it is a weird.
I'm just like,
you do make a good point though, that it is a weird point in history. Sex work is work, and sex work is known as the oldest profession for a very good reason. Men historically have paid a lot of money to have work performed, shall we say, exchange of goods or services.
I guess what it boils down to is that like it's just a continuation of the ways that we've seen AI used to like continually harm or displace like the least advantaged of us in certain spaces. You know what I mean? It's like the first things that we saw when all of this stuff started taking off is like, oh, well, now we can replace, you know, artists, right? Let's just say generally artists. And it's like, artists were not the people that were like, you know, dominating the workplace or dominating the market or whatever, right? And it's I understand why it had value and it was of interest to a lot of people because it's something that's out of reach and it's difficult and it's messy to figure out how to, and everybody wants to create or do things or whatever, and it's like hiring an artist, doing all these things that might seem difficult or challenging or out of reach or whatever it might be. But then this is like the peak of that continuum. It's like, well, who else can we harm with this? It's like, well, let's knock women out of this whole thing and like
the weirdest thing about this whole topic, about the topic of AI porn bots stealing adult content creators' content for their own personal gain, is, you know, you talk about oldest profession. You know, it's been a woman-dominated marketplace, although the men have certainly tried to get in on that action, whether it be through their own goods and services, which I think there's a much smaller market for that, or through owning the means of production and doing human trafficking, which is definitely a thing that happens. Look at Andrew Tate and Matthew Gertz and you know, and all the alleged sex traffickers of the world. When OnlyFans came out, suddenly there was a 100%, you know, female-owned capitalist endeavor where they could own the entire means of production. They never had to meet a man. They never had to come face to face. They never had to put themselves in any danger. They own the process from beginning to end, and they're the ones who are profiting. And here we are as guys, putting it up again for them. Not we, but we globally, collectively.
I would love to see of all of the, like, if we just had like a magic pair of glasses into this article, right? They looked at like, I think they pulled data from like 1,000 AI porn bots on Twitter. They analyzed 100 of them or whatever. And it's like, I would just love to have the glasses and see like, how many of those were run or dominated or controlled by men. Because I don't think that any of them would be run by women. Like, I'm just taking a guess. I'm making maybe a dangerous overgeneralization. but how many of them were run by men? And I would almost stake my life on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, maybe that's extreme, maybe that's too much, but like, hold a gun to my head and force me to say how many of them were all run by men. And
I'm not saying that women can't be sex traffickers. I'm not saying that women don't have a part in AI generated, like, porn bots.
Like
but...
Ghislaine Maxwell or whatever her name is, she's in prison. Like, we know that they're just as capable in some ways. But like, I don't know. It's just a whole other thing. So anyway, I'm like, I don't know. I'm really stuck on these like that weird aspect of the whole thing.
Yeah, like, we know it was happening, but to see someone dive into it so head first and tackle the subject head on, like 404 and Wired have done here. It's really interesting. As they said, it's taken impersonation or AI generated imagery and literally put it to an industrial scale. There are thousands upon thousands of these bots out there. And there are tutorials on how to make them. There are entire, shoestring industries popping up simply to steal and regenerate adult content to siphon money off of unwitting males and or whoever, just unwitting people. I don't judge you for what you're into, but it is so. And sorry, my sister is blowing up my Discord right now.
Tell her to stop. We're in the middle of talking about AI pimping, okay?
She's sending me memes, so I sent a couple back to her, and then she went off on like, she's Gen Z, and so she can't I'm a millennial. I had to pay per text message, and so I put all my thoughts into a paragraph and hit send after proofreading it, because I didn't want to be misunderstood. And she'll send like single word replies, like 30 of them in a row.
Well, yeah, that's just
we communicate differently.
I remember at a PDX Lab last time we were there, and it's like I thought I was keeping up with like the lingo, the slang, and I was like, I'm young, I'm hip and cool, and like, I know what Riz means, right? Like,
she just texted me and said, "Oh my god, I didn't know you were live." Fuck.
Tough banana beans. Now we're going to talk about how Rett uses Riz versus your sister uses Riz, which, we all have an idea of what Riz means, but like, I'm of the age where I'm like, yeah, Riz is like a thing that one has, that you are in possession of, that you can display. It is your prowess, and she's like using it as like a verb.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm so behind the times. She's using Riz as a verb.
Yeah. I was totally risen up this hottie. Yeah. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I heard her use it in the context of Baldur's Gate 3 a lot, so.
Yes. I sent her a Baldur's Gate 3 meme in response. So. It was Astarion doing spinnies. I can't read you the whole conversation, but it was funny. But yeah, no, you were saying that they took 1,000 AI generated Instagram influencer accounts. They reviewed 100 of them, and pretty much all of them that they reviewed contained deepfake like content.
Of course they did.
Even some that were legitimate. Were using some form of AI to, Instagram reality their posts and things like that. So the other 900 accounts shared images that in some cases were trained on real photographs, and in some cases made to look like celebrities, but were entirely AI generated, not edited photographs or videos. So again, refining AI imagery down to like finite details. Let's make sure that she has the proper amount of digits. Let's make sure that you know, the clothing matches, that the background matches. No, that's not the right light from before. Make it the light from before so aesthetically it matches scene to scene. This is something
those nipples are not the same size.
Right. But yeah, out of 1,000 accounts, 900 of them were not real.
I mean,
and the other 100 still contained deepfake-like material.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, part of me just wants to make the joke of like, I guess in another 10 years, like, it'll just make my own nudes that much more valuable, because like you can guarantee if you get in a Rett,
these are
awesome.
Legit.
These are legit. This is pure. This is
real Riz right here.
I was trying really hard to figure out how to use the word meat without making it sound way too awful, but Riz works too. Probably even better.
This is someone who almost put coming in the title.
I'm just like, you get a Rett is awesome nude, you know that it's genuine. All right, it's all meat, no deceit.
Here's Rett dropping new content today.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like this is just such like a dark and probably like such a cop-out place to take it too. You know what I mean? Because like in the meantime, like I don't know. Am I really worried about OnlyFans content creators? Like probably not. But at the same time, like should I be? I mean, know.
Kinda.
Like, this is a new line of the culture war.
I kind of am. Because like Patreon started as that safe haven until they started accepting credit card payments from all the, and had to get like bank accounts and things. Right. And then suddenly the credit card companies were like, we don't want to take part in anything sex related. And so that's why Patreon pivoted away from adult content and kicked all the adult content creators to the crib. And that's why OnlyFans exists. And consume the content, don't consume the content, think what you will of the content. It is still a legitimate way to make money, and as long as you're a willing participant, cool, good on ya.
I guess, you know, and something I had was kind of touching on, like, makes me think of this in a greater context, which is that like so much of our day-to-day world anymore has become like a kind of cold culture war in so many aspects. And there is like one sort of like one ideology that is like just so genuinely and overarchingly anti-culture. And I don't know, I don't even want to like necessarily be caught saying on camera that like adult content is culture.
Kind of is.
But it is.
Yeah.
It's a driving force of culture in so many ways.
It's decided technology wars, from Betamax versus VHS to Blu-ray versus HD DVD.
Right. And so, like, man, I don't know. Like, I would be even interested now to understand.
We've pivoted technologies based on what porn was made on, which means it's 100%. Culturally relevant.
100%. So then this even comes to my point even more. Than it's like, I guess. I was asking earlier, like, how many of these bots are men behind? Like, how many of these bots are of a certain ideological persuasion? Trying so hard not to make this political, but like literally it comes down, it's coming down in my mind to like this politics, right? How many of these accounts on this side are of a certain political or ideological persuasion? Because it really seems like today that like most of culture, most of art, most of the things that are advancing culture come from people who think and see and feel a certain way. And most of the people that are against those things or interrupt those things displace the people involved in the making and distribution and advancement of those things are of another political and ideological persuasion.
Yeah.
And maybe that's too vague in general. And I guess it's like, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of disrupting and displacing like adult content creation, it really does feel like it already has like a political tinge to it. You know, I don't know. Like maybe I'm making mountains out of molehills, or I'm putting stuff that stocking things that aren't real or don't exist. But like, I guess that's part of like what gets my jimmies up in a rustle about this whole thing, is that it really just feels like the culturally devoid people on this planet are the ones that are like using this to like create adult content and like swindle people. Like it feels like just another hollow, culturally vacant grift.
Have you met someone who's worked 20 years in sales? I don't know how much more culturally devoid you get, because they're all the frat boys wearing the polo shirts, you know.
Right.
I know the breed. Yeah. At least American wise, I know the breed.
Right.
Yeah. And it's kind of hard to look. There are so many different cultures in the U.S., which is one of the great things about the US. We're not supposed to be a single religion or a single creed or a single race or a single ideology. We're supposed to blend and live together. E pluribus unum. Read a fucking history book. And when those cultures clash, it can be divisive, but we're supposed to allow, so long as it's not harming anyone, we're supposed to allow those cultures to exist. And America often gets put in the box of the puritanical. I don't know why, other than we were founded by Puritans and Quakers.
Because we're actively doing shit like that. Oh, well, I guess I don't know where these AI bots are coming from, but
the Puritans were so uptight, the English kicked them out. Okay.
But not only that, it's like, you know, like I remember one of the things, like when we had European exchange students coming when I was in high school, they'd be like, yeah, it's not uncommon to see like a naked person in an advertisement where I'm from.
Yeah.
And like here, that's like, but
right.
Meanwhile, like they'll be like, but you can go to a movie and you can watch a guy shoot 100 people in the face and like see the damage like that it's doing to those people. We don't have that over there. I mean, yeah, we have access to these movies, but like that's not like what we're doing.
Right.
I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, it's just like,
well, I mean, look at German versus American video games. You know, you can't display Nazi paraphernalia even in historically accurate context, a la like Wolfenstein, like, or you know, World War II video games or things like that. You know, even when the bad guys are portrayed as the Nazis, you can't have Nazi flags or anything like that, because there's no Nazism allowed, period, regardless of context, in Germany in media. And we're like, yeah, kill the Nazis, rah, 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 which, by the way, punch a Nazi today. But we have no problem displaying, you know, gross acts of violence and things like that in all forms of popular media, and allowing anyone 10 years old or older to partake in that media. But gosh darn it, if there's a tit on TV. And...
yeah. No titties, but also go ahead and shoot 1,000 people in the face. It's okay.
Right.
Like, if you had to ask yourself ultimately, like, which one is less harmful?
I've shared this anecdote once before, but it really stuck with me culturally where America is at. And I'll say this from the perspective of someone who owns guns and has no problem with violent media, as long as it's consumed responsibly and thing like that. And I have no problem with, you know, tits being out either. But
tits are great.
Tits are great. Everyone loves tits.
I couldn't help myself. Sorry.
God, we're totally getting demonetized now.
I know. It's too late. It's too late.
It's too late. with my oldest, we were very careful about the media that we had on. We didn't even watch CSI like around her, because it's like, she doesn't need to see a guy with a knife in his head on primetime television. Like, are you kidding me? And so it's like, yeah, we were very cognizant. Rip the monetization for this video. Thank you, Veronica. Go buy some merch, please. Anyway, we didn't even have CSI on the TV, because it's like, that's not appropriate. There are so many things that just aren't appropriate violence-wise on a TV that are just commonplace. And it's like, we stopped watching all those shows when she was awake or in the room or anything like that. She's about 6 years old, and I am playing, there's a game called, oh gosh. It's not, now I'm drawing a blank on the name. Anyway, it's stick figures. And it's like a real-time war game, It's an indie game, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. It's only single player, but it's like, think of Battle Royale, like, 200 players on a map, but single player and with stick figures. You can turn on paintball mode too. And so you could be shooting paintballs and it'll just paint splatter wherever you shoot. And so I turned on paintball mode, and my daughter walked in the room, and she goes, "Hey, can I watch?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Why not? It's paintball." She knows what paintball is. And this is a child who I tried so hard for the first 6 years of her life to not introduce violent media, and here I am playing, basically a paintball game with stick figures, like one of the most innocuous things you could possibly do. And she's just sitting in my lap watching me. And after about 2 minutes, I went to iron sights, and I'm looking down the sights of this gun, and my daughter goes, "Shoot him in the face!" I went, so that's where we're at.
Somebody says stick war.
It wasn't stick war. God dang it, I'm gonna have to look it up now. It wasn't stick war. Green Protagonist is something too that I've been thinking about a lot lately too, because like my kiddo's getting older. We're trying to find things that we can all watch together. And it's like, even sitcoms are 98% sex jokes. Yeah.
And it's like, I have always loved the show How I Met Your Mother, for example, but like, one of the main characters in that show is just like a serial like rapist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he literally uses constant deceit and lies and all of this stuff to get laid. And it's like, oh wow, this is
look at How I Met Your Mother. Look at 2.5 Men. Look at half of the plots of Bones. Like you want to talk about a crime mystery that doesn't really have a lot of like violence in it. But when they're in the lab, I've never seen a more horny lab. And I've seen actual scientists working in a lab that were horny as hell. All of primetime television is nothing but smut and violence. And we eat it up. But then, God forbid we see a tit on the air. I can say tit now. It's fine. We're already demonetized.
Yeah. See, at least with Bones, though, is everybody got paid appropriately.
True.
Unlike the AI pimping that we started this whole train about.
Star Trek, how many episodes with Kirk getting some action? Right. Well, that was the 60s. It was a different time.
Yeah, everybody's getting action back
then.
It's funny that somebody went to the original series, because I was going to go to The Next Generation as kind of like the example of not that. Yeah, it's a mess. I think that
that 70s show is forever ruined for me. I can't watch it anymore. Nope.
Yeah.
Don't tell me sex sells and not point to the Uhura fan dance, right? Uh,
You know, and as far as like that, I don't know. Yeah. I haven't watched the new Frasier series yet.
yeah, I haven't seen it
I
yet.
did I did think it was uncanny as I'm getting ads for it. Like I was like, oh God, Frasier's back, and then they do the joke about like, do you think we would trade the baby for white Zinfandel? And I was like, oh my God, he delivered that exactly like Frasier from 30 years ago. It was impressive.
Yeah.
Like, like you think you lose that muscle memory at some point, but nope, apparently it's still there.
Veronica says TNG had plenty of racy moments too. The Crusher Ghost episode comes to mind right away. Right.
Yeah, there's definitely some horny episodes. Like you get some very like on the nose jokes. I always felt in TNG that they were a little bit more
There's
like
some overt sexy
campier
episodes.
sex jokes. There were some very overt sexy episodes, but I always felt like that they were kind of like leaning into it like more humorously. Because
Is it episode 3 or 4 that Data and Yar bone?
right. But
I'm
it's like
fully functional and skilled in multiple techniques.
Like fully functional. That's what I mean is like it always seems like it's led by a joke. Like, and you go to Risa and it's like, oh, Riker, he went to the sex planet, or like, like Picard comes back and they give him like the fertility statue or whatever, and it's like, everybody wants to bone you now, Picard. Like,
Right.
It's always preceded by like humor.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a fine thing for like,
Which is kind of the
sexy
80s
comments.
vibe, right?
Yeah, I think it's a fine thing for sexy commentary to be like rooted in like something other than just like, we're here to bone and be horny. It's like,
Right.
I don't know. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, but I think that the horniness that's in it is like a little bit different than like what Kirk brings to the table.
Right. Kirk was a sex hound. TNG was a little more sophisticated at times.
Yeah.
Not all the time, just some of the time.
And maybe I'm totally just like mischaracterizing those scenes in TNG, but it always felt more like it was part of like a greater, like a joke or a shtick or something
they
like
did
that. Like,
introduce a lot more humor in TNG to sell the scene. One of my favorite scenes with Riker ever was when he's on the exchange program on the Klingon bird of prey. And one of the Klingons around the mess hall goes, do you think you could handle them? And there's 2 Klingon women eyeing Riker from across the room.
Yeah, I love that.
And he turns back and he goes, one or both? God, that's such a baller line.
That's such a good line. But then you also get the opposite too, where they do approach it with maturity too, where you have, for example, the episode with the like androgynous species, and like Riker seems to hit it off with one of them, and there's the whole thing about how they don't like the humans or whatever because they're gendered, or I don't know. They approach that like Riker is obviously horny for that person, but like they handle it with a lot of like emotional maturity. So
I don't mind a they them. Like,
yeah, it's a great episode.
That's right.
And I like that they lean into the fact that Riker will literally just like he's just down for love, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I mean, they've approached that from many different angles. Yeah. Late TNG, DS9 Voyager were the more Puritan years of Trek. And then we get into the decontamination scenes in Enterprise.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, Jadzia and Worf. Oh, man. Of course we broke a bone in the Hollow Suite. What'd you think we were doing in there?
Ronica says TNG understood the assignment when it comes to the diversity of their audience because it wasn't aimed purely at dudes.
Correct.
And that's the like over on Bluesky, which I've deleted my Twitter. Come find me over at Bluesky now.
Yes. I've changed both of our handles in the description. That's been running for the last month or so.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
I need to get my follower count back up.
Go follow redisawesome.com over on Bluesky.
That's where I am, baby. But yeah, it's true. Everybody that's talking about all the sexy TNG stuff are definitely all ladies. So I think they must have captured something there, right? Maybe that's part of the like the humor aspect of it, right? Like because when you code like the sexiness is like fun and laid back and like come on, that's got to be like right? That's like aimed at ladies? I don't know. I don't know enough about this.
I don't know, maybe. I'm not going to dig
Maybe
into that
not.
one too much.
Or maybe now like 30 years removed from it, like the ladies are like, we dig some light humor with our sexiness. Yeah.
There, look, putting into the context that, like, sexual harassment is never okay. When you become friends with someone, there's a relationship there that can explore some more risque subjects or humor or things like that before broaching the threshold of assault. And I think TNG especially, but I mean there's DS9 and Voyager right alongside there. With Jadzia and Worf in the holosuite, and Worf cut his head open, and what happened? What were you guys doing in there? It's like stuff, and you could approach those subjects from a humorous perspective, as if it were an office acquaintance or an office friendship that had developed over years. You're purely platonic and everything else, but. And I'm not talking like locker room talk, but I'm talking like friendly banter between friends. Like, you can still make jokes. It's okay. As long as everyone's consenting. As long as everyone is okay with the joke. Don't walk up to random people on the street and say crap like that. But I think TNG especially definitely had that level of humor to it. I am fully functional, and the Borg Queen in First Contact, like they brought it back. How long has it been? 8 years, 7 months, 12 days, 4 hours, 32. Far too long. There was a time I considered her offer. How long, Data? 8.42 seconds. For an android, that is an eternity. I imagine he blue screened for a second there. Is that what you call it on Android? Blue screening?
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah. That was an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Well done. We did it.
Yeah, we did it. We didn't drop viewership either. Like, it held.
Can I say? You know? From AI pimping to Star Trek.
We didn't even get into 7 of 9 and how that was clearly.
But they were doing that in the chat, and I almost was gonna bite, but
yeah.
I've always liked Voyager, but I've never liked it as much as I've never liked any Star Trek as much as I've liked TNG, and so it was hard for me to take the bait on that one and like kind of dive in with it because they're talking about 7 of 9 and all of the modern memeing and things on Facebook apparently, but
yeah. We can all say that Star Trek was successful in spite of Rick Berman. Especially what's come out in the years after Star Trek has, faded from NDAs with actors and such. Who's the actor for Yar? Denise Crosby. Rick Berman apparently had a Twitter post a couple of years ago where he took a picture of Tasha Yar's comm badge sitting on his desk. And he made a tweet about it and said, Denise gave me this on her last day of filming after the scene with the goo. where she died on the planet by, rolling a 1 in D&D. I'll never forget that moment. And she tweeted back or retweeted it and said, I remember that differently because I had just finished shooting my scene from a different episode, which we shot out of order. And you walked up and ripped the comm badge off my shirt and said you won't be needing that anymore.
Interesting.
Terry Farrell has had similar things to say about Rick Behrman over the years, who was Jadzia Dax, who was unceremoniously killed in the later stages of season 6 of DS9.
Yeah.
We appreciate Star Trek for what it is, not for who Rick Behrman, the producer of Star Trek, was.
Yeah.
That guy. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
But the actors and actresses and whatnot of that time still fondly remember their time on Star Trek in spite of Rick Behrman. They still appear at cons, they still engage with the fans, and they still love the community, and so we love them for it, and I feel it's okay to still love the show.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's okay to love that 70s show. Wrapping that back around.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot more that kind of poison the well on that too, right? It's not just that like one actor is a horrible human being and a rapist. It's that like other people involved.
They all came out to defend
show,
said
like
known
went to
rapist.
Go bat for him like super hard.
Yeah.
Which like, say what you will, it says something about the culture that show. The
personalities it attracted, the environment that it cultured.
Like I think whoever one bad faith person involved with Star Trek is, like, something can be said about the spirit of all of the people that were involved with it to this point. Like, and maybe someday we'll eat our words on this, right? Maybe some horrible news will come out, but it's like the spirit of the people involved with that show is something different than the spirit of the people involved.
We have full cast photos for the entire cast of every series of Star Trek from their personal weddings.
Right.
Here's the full cast at LeVar Burton's wedding. Here's the full cast at Will Wheaton's wedding. Here's the full cast at this person's wedding. Here's the full cast at this person's wedding. They are deeply, deeply friends, and all great people. Like, so yeah.
Rapists, bad. Okay.
I didn't think we needed to say that out loud, but there it is. Craft Computing's official stance.
I'm glad I could state it for everybody who was unsure. I don't know,
This video has no chance in hell of being monetized.
Well, then what the fuck are we messing around then with, Jeff? Huh? Why are we
I'm just going to turn it off now. Actually, what's funny? I don't monetize talking heads.
See?
Because if I don't monetize talking heads and we screw up with something, or they want to issue a DMCA for me, it's not monetized for me, so they can't take anything away from the channel. They can't actually strike the channel. They can only start monetizing it. So
see? So who the fuck cares?
Yeah. Well, I do.
Okay, I'll turn it down. Throwing out two of them back to back was a little like, it makes your skin crawl a little bit,
Right.
We've gone so many years with just like the occasional slip.
Jeff, did we cover the Steam controller? We have not, and I think we can jump over to that really quick.
Let's do it.
So there are two separate hardware devices that have been spotted code names for in full production. So an announcement is likely imminent. I don't know whether it'll happen this month or next, but probably one of the two. The Steam Controller 2, codenamed Ibex, is in full production. So for those who know the Steam Controller, or not Steam Deck, I said Steam Deck. Steam Controller, hold on, I have one. Haha, I still have mine. Look at that. So this is the original Steam Controller, and it was a controller that was ahead of its time, for a number of different reasons. The trackpads were certainly a choice, although these ended up being basically what went on to the HTC Vive VR controllers, which ended up being quite popular and successful. There are some people who still swear by this controller, and I've used it before. Is it necessarily exactly what I want for a shooting title? Not necessarily, but that's because I have 25 plus years of joystick experience and muscle memory that is kind of tuned that way. That the trackpad, you know, with your thumb on it, there's no like auto centering mechanism, so you put your thumb down and then you just move it in a direction, and that's the direction you move. It's a little weird to get used to.
Yeah.
But the haptic feedback on this is fantastic. The touchpad D-pad is certainly a choice. I'm not a fan of the click on it. I wish there were like individual direction clicks instead of just a solid click. But it's got its fan base. Apparently, the Steam Deck Controller 2 is on its way. Do we have any details? No. Just that it's coming. Also, a VR controller is coming. So Brad Lynch, at Sadly It's Brad, has basically poured through some Steve development logs, and he's found input triggers for both of these new controllers to serve as Steam inputs. So what exactly they will look like? Great question. Wish I could tell you. What exactly are the new controllers going to be? Great question. Wish I could tell you. All we know is that there's something in the works.
It's exciting stuff.
And it'll be released at some point.
Woohoo!
The sad part is we'll never get a Valve Controller 3.
Sad day.
Yep.
Way to bring us all down, Jeff.
We might get an episode 2 on it, but we're not going to get a full third part. We might get a prequel.
How dare you bring this into their company culture, and everybody gets the joke. I'm trying hard to flag it for people, but everybody gets it. They don't need me.
We do have a little bit of craft beer news, and I think maybe we'll close with that.
Let's do it.
Elysian Brewing, Seattle, Washington, makers of Space Dust.
Fans of the show.
I don't
know if that's true, but I say that.
Sure.
Now on.
We actually went to Elysian Brewing in 2018 for PAX West.
Was that 18? Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a good year.
Yeah, it was.
When are we going back to PAX, Jeff?
We got to go back to PAX. I want to do a lot more traveling this next year. So we got to go back to PAX.
As if you haven't been doing enough.
I've been doing some. I did book my ticket to CES this last week, so I am officially going to CES 2025. It'll be my first time back since before the dark times.
Yeah. Oh, God. Can't believe it's been that long. That's crazy.
Yeah. So Rett, you went with me in 2019. Steve went with me in 2020.
Steve went 2020.
Steve's gonna go back with me in 2025.
Oh, nice.
And but Steve and I went in 2020 in January of 2020. It was a very important period in history. Because COVID followed everyone home from CES. CES was like the kernel that was planted for worldwide spread. So didn't know it then, but a lot of people came home sick with it. Like the first reported infections were like February 25th and things like that, but then they started tracing back and they went, well, it's not hitting the major airports and international spots like we would hit. Like it's not hitting Los Angeles or New York or Boston or Chicago or Miami. It's hitting Palo Alto and Eastern Oregon and SeaTac and what do these places have in common? Oh, that's the tech sectors. It followed people back from CES.
Wow.
That's how it spread.
Ugh.
So
Veronica says it's been 400 years since March 2020, but I counter with it's been like a couple weeks. Time has just been frozen, and that I don't feel any older than I did in March 2020.
Oh,
Time's been frozen. Nothing counts. We all got to do over. I mean, I feel older in the sense that I'm exhausted and super tired, but also I'm like, wait a minute, none of those years count though.
Yeah.
I have to refine my thesis. I take this all back until next time I'm on and I can present my point more clearly and better, because it has been 400 years, but I feel immortal.
I feel the full Titanic meme is actually in full effect here. It's been 84 years and I can still smell the fresh paint.
Yes, exactly. Okay, there we go.
It's not it's been 84 years. It's the full phrase.
Yeah.
Just try to remember what you can. Let me, do you want me to tell this story or not? It's been 84 years and I can still smell the fresh paint. That's what 2020 feels like.
It does. It's the gift that keeps giving.
Ugh.
Oh, man. Yeah, and then Rev says we're actually going back to 2016. So, there it is. That's probably part of why I feel frozen in time right there, doesn't it?
We spent so much time on the AI bot talk, we didn't get to the political talk, but I think that's okay. Anyway, Elysian Brewing
is okay.
Announced this week that they are shutting down next month.
There's no, I'm just kidding.
There's a plus minus on who will actually be affected. InBev says 0 people will be affected. Elysian Brewing says 90 people will be affected. I'm leaning towards the 90 rather than the 0.
Why would they say nobody would be?
I don't know, when you're shutting down 2 buildings and not repurposing or moving those people. Like, you would think 90 people is the right answer, right?
That email. They let ChatGPT answer that email to the press.
Right.
They're like, well, 0 people. A brewery is just an abstract concept that exists only on our Google search results.
Yes. So, Elysian Brewing, the tap house is already shut down, and the brew house is actually going away entirely. Elysian will no longer be brewed at Elysian, supposedly even in Seattle, Washington. Elysian, the brand, will live on, as AB InBev, the owner of Elysian, says they are going to continue producing Space Dust as well as a couple of their other regular beers. I hope they bring back some of the seasonals, like the Winter Ale was always fantastic. But Elysian's always had some really solid beers, and
Always one that I look for at the tap houses. Somebody says it's because they offered all the employees to move to Europe.
Something like that? Yeah.
Does that make sense? Is that a thing?
And if you decline a rehousing, then you're technically not affected by a layoff? Is maybe that?
But also, even if you move across the planet, you're still affected. Oh, he says I'm just guessing. Okay, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael. I saw you engaging in chat, and I thought you knew what you were talking about. I retract what I just said.
Yep. Is AB InBev getting out of the craft beer ownership business? No, I heard some. Hold on. Yeah, that's what I thought. Employees in August voted to unionize to become part of the Teamsters Local 117 in August of 2024. And shockingly enough, AB InBev is closing Elysian Brewing as of November 2024.
Interesting.
Brewery workers voted 62% in favor of becoming a union shop. This was on November 16th. And apparently, after months of union negotiations that went nowhere, the owners of Elysian Brewing in Seattle's Georgetown Brewery, here's an article with some more information, are shutting down operations. AB InBev acquired Elysian in 2015. Employees voted in August of last year to unionize and become part of the local Teamsters 117. At the time, brewery workers voted 62% in favor of becoming a union shop. According to them, AB InBev plans to shut down the brewery on December 31st. So, yeah.
Are they shutting down because they're a union shop?
That's certainly the implication. Employees and union leaders have tried to negotiate a new contract with brewery owners for several months, but recent talks have stalled. In September, a spokesperson for Anheuser-Busch told Kiro 7 out of Seattle the company was waiting for union negotiators to return to the bargaining table. At the time, it was reported that workers were holding out for what they were calling fair wages and better retirement benefits. And rather than paying them, they just decided to close.
Are there union shops that make worse products than non-unionized shops? Like, it's bonkers to me. Whatever. I'm too tired at the end of this show after the whole AI porn bot thing to even get into this with AB InBev, but there you go. Careful who you talk to about unionizing, given the current political climate, folks.
Yeah.
We had a pretty strong union at Craft Computing back in the day. I was the union president and minutes taker and only member, but it was a good union, by golly. It was a great union.
Did you get everything you wanted out of it?
Every time and more.
I know how we can make this episode less controversial. Let's talk about unions.
I'm just like...
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this episode has everything.
See, Skull says that the trades, you often get worse quality with the union shops, but in general, no. And I was thinking that the trades are the place where you, at least it feels like in Oregon, the trades are where you go with the union shops, but maybe not. I don't know.
We didn't even mention police unions, but that's another topic entirely.
And those don't count. Those don't count. For a more in-depth look on why, go listen to the Behind the Bastards episode about police unions. By the way, the Portland Police Union here in Oregon is the oldest police union of its kind in the United States, which is why they are especially bad. And when I say bad, I mean effective at their jobs, but bad for, like, public well-being.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Careful.
Yep. Careful.
PPB's going to come on down here and just like, hey, boy, mate, I hear you talking some right shit about us. Huh? That's what they sound like up there in Portland.
Skull says, I'm just saying that there are bad eggs even in union shops. It's not a golden seal of good. Right.
Yeah, but see, and I know this isn't what you were saying at all, Skull, but it always reminds me of, like, I remember, like, debating about, or not even debating, but just, like, hearing about unions from, like, all the, like,
the old timers in my small town, and they'd be like, the unions they're so corrupt and they get away with whatever. And I'm like, well, and now that I'm older, I'm like, God forbid that like even unions are allowed to be corrupt, and God forbid even unions are allowed to suck. It feels like the trades are just like backsliding in general anyways.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like the amount of like institutional knowledge that these people are bringing into their work. I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not saying like, I'm not defending bad work. I'm not defending that, but it always feels that like the arguments that could be made against any type of union, it's like, well, that's like one small, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You're probably right. I don't ever have to deal with union trades anyway, so
yeah.
Why am I defending them? They don't need me. Yeah, if they need me to defend them, they're screwed.
Sorry, I had to share something on the Discord real quick. Yeah.
So there you have it. Any other controversial things you guys want to get into?
Yeah. Do we want to get into abortion or healthcare for all or...
Hey, free Palestine. All right, there's our show for the night.
Any other topics that... Can we solve all the world's problems right here on this stream? Like, let's...
Two white guys, Jeff? You know we can.
Yeah. We've had the floor for at least 400 years.
We can just shut the fuck up for 1 week. And we'll be back. Maybe two. Maybe two, but that's all we can guarantee.
I'm bored.
Join us in the after party where we'll continue to solve the world's problems.
Oh man.
Almost wants to talk us to talk about
Nope. I mentioned him once.
Yeah, and you said his name wrong. I was like, bro.
He doesn't deserve any good credit.
Oh.
Veronica sends another $5, and actually, correction on that. This one is from my wife. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
We love all the viewers of the show and their wives.
Oh, man. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This has been episode 360 and probably our last of Talking Heads. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news. I don't know if we'll have a show next week. We might take it off for Thanksgiving. I don't know if I have a co-host or not. If I do, maybe we'll do a show. If not, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanksgiving is an American holiday, by the way, guys. So in
right.
case you weren't aware of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, none of that Canadian crap. Gosh. Trying to steal all our things. You believe they get a third day off for Boxing Day? Like, frickin'.
Maybe instead of going after them,
kind of scam is going on up there.
We should
They're
take
socialized
a page out of their
holidays.
book. Up there, they're like, can you believe they hate us for getting a third day off?
Well, if we can take President's Day off, I think they can have Boxing Day. I just can't wait until the new administration officially creates holidays out of everyone's favorite time of year, Toyotathon and Honda Days. So,
except they'll probably be based on some Tesla saying next.
Probably. Yeah. Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. Yes, you are right, as well as New Year's Day. So we'll figure something out for that. We usually take the week of Christmas off. New Year's Day, we might alter the schedule slightly. I don't know which direction. Honestly, it depends on the college football playoff schedule. If I'm talking personally, of when we'll be doing a show, because I am not missing a primetime Oregon game. I love you all, but I love them more. Anyway, as always, thank you all so much for watching. Join the Patreon, get access to the Discord server, chat with myself as well as all the other hosts from Talking Heads. And as always,